Good morning, Rabbi.
We're learning Mishna Kesubos, Perek Yud, chapter 10, Mishnah Beis, Mishnah 2. Okay, now, we're continuing with the discussion about Kesubos bin Dichrin, which we mentioned yesterday, which is where one of the stipulations of the Kesuba is that if she dies before he does, and thus he doesn't pay her Kesuba. However, he guarantees that when he dies and his sons, which he has sons from her, sons from a different wife, that her sons are going to get the amount of Kesuba, the amount of what she should have gotten for a Kesuba, her sons are going to get even before they divvy up the whole estate. They get the amount from the estate, they get what would have been paid for a Kesuba if he would have died first, and then after that they divide up the estate. Now, our Mishnah is going to deal with a case where the person has two wives. He has two sets of sons from each wife, and now each one wants to be able to claim from the estate the Kesubos bin Dichrin, the Kesuba of the male sons, which we just explained. And now the question is, what happens when basically, a situation where, let's say, one has a larger Kesuba than the other, which means the Kesubos bin Dichrin for one set of sons is going to be larger than the others, and it comes out that the entire estate now is covered through that. Meaning after each one gets their Kesubos bin Dichrin, there's nothing left to divide up evenly. So that's the case in the Mishnah. A person who had two wives, Vamesu, and the two wives died, V'acharkach Mesu, and afterwards he dies. So now we have a situation of the Kesubos bin Dichrin. The Yisayim Mavakshim Kesubos Iman. The orphans, meaning the heirs, are seeking the Kesuba of their mother, meaning each one wants to collect that amount. The Ein Shemer L'Shtei Kesubos, but at the end of the day, the amount of properties that are left in the estate are only enough to cover those two Kesubos. So let's say that one was promised 600 zuz in her Kesuba. The other one was promised 400 zuz in her Kesuba. So now each one of their heirs wants to collect out of the estate. One wants to take their 600, one wants to take their 400. But now there's nothing left to divide equally. Says the Mishnah, Cholkin b'shaveh. Guess what? They do not take the amounts of their mother's Kesuba and they divide the whole estate evenly. Now let's go a little bit further, then we'll get better. We'll get more clarity. Dinar. If let's say after they divide up the estate amongst the two Kesubos bin Dichrin, you got left one dinar in the whole estate, then Elu not Kesubos Iman. These can take their mother's Kesuba, Kesubos Iman, and the other ones can take their mother's Kesuba. The point of the Mishnah is that in order for each one to be able to collect the Kesubos bin Dichrin that they inherited, there has to be something left that you can do what the Torah says with an estate between children, which is divided equally. Now, in the first case, there was nothing left to divide equally. If this one takes their mother's Kesuba, that one takes their mother's Kesuba, the first case was there's nothing left to divide up. In that case, there's no Kesubos bin Dichrin. We basically revert to the Torah law of inheritance, and they divide the entire estate amongst themselves equally. If there's a firstborn, he gets a double portion. But again, there's an even division. But if after each one collects the Kesubos bin Dichrin, what their mother's Kesuba was, you got one dinner left, and that's what they divide amongst themselves, that's good enough. Just having one dinner left is enough to say, okay, this is enough to say that we have a significant amount or a decent amount or just something of a consideration. We have an amount of some consideration that says if you divide that evenly, you have fulfilled the Torah's principle of dividing inheritance evenly, and then each one can go ahead and take their mother's Kesuba. Im Amru Yisaimim. Now, if let's say the orphans, which really means the heirs here, if they say, Anachnu marlan al nichsei avinu yoser dinar, we consider the property of our father worth an extra dinar. And they're doing this kadesh yitlu ksubas iman, so they should be able to take their mother's ksuba. So here's the case. I read it to you from the bottom. For example, the property left behind is worth 1,000 dinars. one wife's ksuba is worth 600 dinars, and the other's is worth 400 dinars. Now, based on that, there is nothing left to divide up equally. So the sons of the first wife, the one who wanted to get 600 is, the sons of the first wife say that they will accept property worth 599 dinars and consider it to be worth 600 dinars. In this way, property worth 1 dinar will be left over, which would allow them to take the ksuba of the male children. So that they're trying to play like this. You know what? We'll take 599, and for that, we consider that 600. To others, worth 600. All right. So that means now they took their 600 of their mother's ksuba. The other children took the 400, and there's even 1 dinar left. So now we'll be able to fulfill the ksubas b'dichrin and the Torah's division of inheritance evenly. Says the Mishnah, if that is what they're trying to do, it doesn't work. If the heirs say that we evaluate, we consider our father's properties worth a dinar more than they actually are, and the reason they're doing that is in order to be able to take their brother's ksuba, as we just explained. We do not listen to them. They take the properties; they're evaluated by the Beis Din according to their actual value. And if after they take their mother's ksubas, each one takes their mother's ksuba, if there's a dinar left to divide, they'll be able to take their mother's ksuba, and otherwise not. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Rabbi.